Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another BuzzFeed response. 36 questions women have for men. Now, you've probably seen some other YouTubers respond to this. A lot of YouTubers have responded to these types of questions women have, questions black people have, questions Asians have, questions feminists have, questions gays have, questions Muslims have, questions Indians. You get the picture, you get the point. But I'm going to go through each and every single one of these BuzzFeed questions for someone, and I'm gonna respond to them. So as long as you can watch this video without killing yourself, I encourage you to watch this all the way through if you haven't seen this video already.
How does it feel to be the same sex as Donald Trump?
How does it feel to be the same gender as Miyuki Ishikawa, a Japanese midwife who killed over 100 children? In fact, she actually went out of her way to seek out homeless children on the street after World War II because she thought that, well, kids are homeless. Why not just kill them? They're better off just being murdered, right? How does it feel to be the exact same gender as Elizabeth Bathory, a woman who killed, captured, and sexually abused over 650 young girls? So by all means, what is your question here? Am I supposed to feel ashamed because I'm the same gender as Hitler, Donald Trump, and other horrific, terrible people who've done horrific, terrible things? Am I supposed to feel guilt and shame for that? Your question holds no argument. It holds no substance as a point in of itself. If you're trying to make me feel bad for being a man because someone's the same gender as me who's done bad things, then you equally should feel just as bad as me. After all, women seem to kill a lot more children than men. I wonder why that is.
Why do you hate rom-coms? Or do you just feel like you need to hate them?
No, I don't feel like I need to hate romantic comedies. I don't hate romantic comedies. I just find romantic comedies to be, in general, films anyway, and even some television shows, to be highly unrealistic in terms of their relationship expectations. I don't like seeing romantic comedies where a woman gets so hung over a guy that she throws everything, her livelihood, her job. She just completely sacrifices everything because she's so insane over this dream man. And it goes the exact same reverse role too, where you have a guy who's so obsessed over a woman who perhaps even cheats or is just not a very good partner, but he's so in love with her that he throws away his entire career, does all this stuff, and just throws everything out of his way to pursue this girl. Those are unrealistic expectations. It put expectations on men and women. It basically says how to treat men and women in relationships. And a lot of men, or a lot of women fall for this sort of idealistic, unrealistic idea of what a relationship should be. If you really want a show that depicts real struggles and real things that people go through in terms of relationships, I recommend the television show on Netflix called Love. Netflix, I'm giving you a free shout out. I'd love to be sponsored by you. Though I do recommend the television show on Netflix known as Love. I definitely recommend it. You will not regret watching it.
Everybody likes The Notebook. Everybody likes Beyonce. It's just a fact.
No, not everybody likes The Notebook. Not everybody likes Beyonce. In fact, I think I've only heard one song by Beyonce in my goddamn life because I, for the most part, don't like a lot of modern music such as Beyonce. I prefer classical and, indie stuff. Stuff that's not super modernized and super popular among everybody and everybody knows what it is. But declaring it as a fact, that's just a fact? No, it's not. Look, I know you're a feminist. I know that you think your idea of a fact means whatever you think is true must be reality. But that's not how science, that's not how statistical analysis and stats work.
Why do you make women sit around and talk about men in movies?
Wait, what? We sit around and we force our girlfriends and wives to talk about men in movies? I've never seen this happen.
And y'all easily just sit around and talk about boobs for hours.
Why?
But I don't really know a lot of guys who talk about boobs for hours. I mean, hours? That's a long time to talk about boobs. Boobs all pretty much look the same for the most part. They're different sizes, different shapes, different nipple sizes, and I get that. But I couldn't even imagine talking about boobs for hours. They're just fucking boobs. They're not special. I mean, yeah, I do like boobs because they jiggle. There's something to grab onto, and yeah, I'm attracted to them, but talking about boobs for hours? No, not with me. Maybe it applies to some of the weird-ass people that you're involved with. But I've never talked about boobs for probably more than 10 minutes at once.
You automatically assume that you won't like TV or movies that star a female lead.
Why?
Oh, I don't assume that I won't like a television show or a movie because of a female lead. In fact, I have no problem with a female lead in film. Some of my most favorite movies of all time include a female lead. But what's important is I don't like when TV shows or when movies pander to the demand to have a female lead. You know, Star Wars Episode 7, there was some controversy on that Disney caved in for a female lead for that movie. I don't believe that at all. The same controversy got up with Star Wars Rogue One because we have another female lead. Is Disney pandering to the fact that we don't have very many female leads? I don't think so, because look at all their animated series. We have tons of female leads in their animated series, and look at how many people get angry at the fact that those female leads are not properly properly culturally the right color of skin. They weren't Indian enough. They're not this enough. They're not that enough. And a lot of the female leads that do fall into these sort of Disney tropes, and then people get upset by these Disney tropes. Maybe Disney's just trying to make more independent female characters, and I don't know the intention of Disney, but if I do think for a second that Disney's making female leads to pander to people because people want more female leads and more women need to be there need to be more female directors, there needs to be more female main leads. If a company is doing it for that pandering reasoning, I don't support them having a female lead in a movie. I mean, let's take a look, example, at one of the worst movies of this year was Ghostbusters. Look exactly how that resulted in. That is a very definition of pandering when you make that all-female cast like that, specifically excluding all the original cast, and they knew that there was going to be backlash from that.
Are you surprised when women are funny?
I'm probably funnier than you.
Why do you think that we're obsessed with you when we hook up?
9 times out of 10, I just want you to leave too. I'm busy, I got shit to do.
Why can't I sleep with as many people as I want to without being judged? When men do it, they're congratulated.
Why do you consider a woman a tease if she doesn't sleep with you after 3 dates, but a slut if she sleeps with you on the first date?
Okay, that was a fair point by BuzzFeed. One of the few things that I'll actually give them credit for is the fact that that is true. And that just comes with societal expectations and societal standards of women and men. They are completely different, but they're both hypocritical and they're both wrong. I do find it problematic. I find it problematic that women are considered whores and sluts if they sleep with somebody on the first date or whatever. And then if a man has sex with, with a lot of women, he's usually congratulated by his male peers. Again, this is a societal thing. It's a fucked up societal thing.
In what world does no mean yes?
No means no.
Why do you say that women are too emotional to be leaders?
Then justify catcalling by saying men just can't control themselves.
Just because I don't see something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. But what I will say is that the women who usually say, quote unquote, men can't control themselves are usually feminists. I've never met a man in my personal life who's ever said they can't control themselves. And I would laugh at any man who did say that they can't control themselves. Men can, in fact, control themselves. And while I don't personally catcall myself and kind of think it's a bit disrespectful, it's not something that needs to be done. Why do you allow catcalling with men, but when it's done to you, it's only then a problem? Shouldn't we equally condemn catcalling when a woman catcalls a man on the street without his shirt on?
Why do you think that just because you're nice to me, I owe you my body?
I think a better question would be, why do you think that you owe us your body because we're nice? There is no owing anybody anything, except the fact that you think that you do owe us something because we're nice to you.
Why would you ever send an unsolicited dick pic?
I'll give BuzzFeed another one. This was a good question. Why do guys send unsolicited dick pictures? That's one thing I've never understood, especially when women and men send each other nudes or dick pictures of themselves when that other person is in a relationship. If you are a woman or a man who sends those types of photos to somebody who's in a relationship, I think you're a scumbag, and I think you're really stupid. That and you don't respect the person whatsoever that you're interested in or you're sending those photos to. But I agree, I don't like unsolicited dick pictures either. Believe me, my Snapchat, known as Repzion, gets plenty of unsolicited dick pictures, and guess what I do? Block.
Why do you feel like it's okay to harass women or make offensive comments about women, but when somebody does it to your sister, it's not okay?
My sister's been on my YouTube channel before, and there's a lot of comments said about her. Didn't delete them, didn't do anything. I left them up. Even the last video with my mom's a hot motherfucking MILF, people like to say. I don't delete it, don't do anything, don't block them. Doesn't bother me at all, and I don't understand when harass women. The word harass is such a vague term. Women like yourselves never defined what harassment means. In most cases where I hear harassment used by people like yourself, it's, oh my gosh, they don't agree with me, oh my gosh, they're criticizing me, that equals harassment, which is not actual harassment.
How does it feel to interrupt me when I'm in the middle of making a point during a meeting?
I think this really depends on the situation. If you're in a meeting and you're doing a PowerPoint or you're trying to make a presentation to, let's say, a man who is a CEO of a company, and he interrupts you because he wants to ask you a question, I don't see an issue with that. It really depends on what the type of interruption is, because I don't find interrupting somebody, depending on the environment that you're in. If you're presenting, I don't know, a new, idea for solar power energy or something, and one of the people who's going to be funding you is a man, and he interrupts you because he has a question that he wants to ask. I don't really see how that should be a problem. If the moment you ever try to say something and you constantly get interrupted anytime you try to speak, then yeah, I can see that being an issue, and I can see that being a problem. But how about we both agree that interrupting someone when they're trying to speak before they've finished speaking is typically a rude thing to do. Doesn't matter if you're a man, doesn't matter if you're a woman.
You have to sit with your legs so wide open.
I get that you have balls, but I don't stand around with my arms wide open to make room for my boobs.
Ah, yes, comparing boobs to actual testicles. Genitalia, that's a great comparison. I do realize that boobs can be sensitive, but I would argue that testicles on men are far more sensitive and far more, what's the word that I'm looking for? Sensitive, I'm just gonna say sensitive. I would argue that balls are more sensitive than boobs. And most men who have their legs semi-spread out, it's really comfortable for men to have their legs spread. It's more of a comfortable thing. I don't see an issue with a man or woman trying to be comfortable in the way they sit.
Why are women perceived as the weaker sex? Even though we literally birth you, like watermelons through like this.
I'm sure there are guys out there who say women are the weaker sex because they actually have a really, low opinion of women. Sure, those type of people exist. But for the majority, no. When I say that women are weaker than men, I say that from a biological, scientific explanation. I'm not saying it to make myself look better or sound better than women, but on a strength level, we are. There's a study done, I think it was last year, by the US Army, specifically in regards to female soldiers and male soldiers, and they did the exact same tasks, and all of the tasks that the men did outperformed the women by a massive margin. In terms of speed, in terms of strength, in terms of weight that they can move and carry. That's not to say that women can't perform those same types of things, but the men outperform them every goddamn time. Women are weaker than men. That's not a sexist statement, that is a scientific statement. If you are so delusional that you don't think that women are the same amount of, that women have the same strength as men, you are crazy. You deny science, you deny biology. And at that point, I can't take anything you have to say seriously.
Why is it so bad to show your emotions?
It means you're human.
Why are you always trying to prove your masculinity to me?
Why the f isn't it ladylike to cuss? When did words get genders?
When did words get genders? The moment that everybody can be a certain gender. I can be a phone gender. I can be a water bottle gender. I can be any gender. I can be a fucking motherfucking Tic Tac gender. Okay, this is a gender too. You can identify as any fucking thing you want around the world. That's the new trend.
Why is it your first instinct to doubt women who have been sexually violated or raped?
Now, I don't like this question. Why is it your instinct to doubt women who've been sexually abused or raped? Now, I've talked about this in my past videos, but as someone who's been sexually abused and have fully recovered from that, I naturally, when I hear a woman coming out about abuse or a man coming out about abuse or sexual abuse, I empathize and I sympathize greatly with those people, and I'm very inclined to believe them without a lack of evidence because of my personal experience. However, despite my leniency to want to believe a woman who comes out about being raped, there's been an overwhelming amount of cases of women in the past, recent decade anyway, making up false accusations, accusing of someone being a rapist, even false identifying a person at school as being someone else that she thought this guy was the person who raped her, but it wasn't. It was someone completely different. And that guy got kicked out of the fucking college and his grades, and he fucking lost a scholarship because some woman made an accusation that he raped her when it was the wrong person that she later corrected. I can't remember the other woman's name, but there was a woman who even lied on national television about being raped by this student, who later, when was challenged with evidence and people were trying to get things because her stories didn't match up, she admitted to lying about ever being raped by anybody. It's a sad day where we live in a world where people have to make up things about being sexually abused. And I think that we all can agree that's fucked up for anybody to do. And by doing so, you take away from real rape victims. But what's most important in situations like accusations of rape and sexual assault is that there's evidence and that person goes through the proper revenues to be tried, to be reported. And that if you have been raped, if you are someone watching this video right now, I want to encourage you, is to file a report. Report it as soon as it happens. Don't wait 25 years to report that you've been raped. Not a lot can get done that way.
Why do you assume a woman's angry because she's on her period?
Because in my experience, not that my experience means that all women are like this, but in my experience, I've had a lot of women who are on their periods turn into a fucking demon. I was once with a girl who got extremely angry and emotional on her period because I wouldn't buy her a goddamn sandwich. Now I look back and she looks back and we both laugh at it together, but it was one of those times where she legitimately says, that was my period. I wanted a Jimmy John's sandwich. You wouldn't get it for me. It was horrible. I felt like I was the worst boyfriend in the world because she was having an emotional breakdown because I wouldn't buy her a chocolate chip cookie and a Jimmy John's sandwich. That's a real life goddamn motherfucking situation that I have been in. Now, not every woman is gonna be angry on her period, but in my experience, the women who I've dated have severely bad periods and they turn into demons. Just make sure to get a lot of chocolate milk and candy bars and just stuff it in their fucking face and then hide yourself in a goddamn closet or a room and don't talk to them. Don't talk to your significant other when they're on their period. Just give them the chocolate and run. That's what I've learned.
Why do you think women that wear makeup are false advertising? We can say the same thing about your dick size.
I've never thought of a woman who is false advertising herself because she wears makeup. In fact, I prefer women without makeup, but if she's wearing makeup, it's not something, I don't think that she's false advertising. I've actually never heard anybody say this before. I'm sure that maybe there are people who think that, but I don't really see why that opinion even matters. If a guy thinks that you're self-advertising because of makeup, then that guy is really stupid and you shouldn't hold what he has to say with any merit.
Why isn't it weird that there's a bunch of old white men sitting in a room making legislation about what I can and can't do with my body?
Fair point, fair point. I do agree with this one. I do not like the fact that a gigantic group of, for example, Republican men, or a large majority of men who are Republicans, make decisions on women's, birth control and stuff like that. I don't think that's a good thing. Don't really have a response to that one other than agreement.
Do you have a coochie?
Why are straight guys so obsessed with lesbians?
How does it feel to get kicked in the balls?
Do you ever get tired of trying to be manly all the time? Why are you so afraid of gender equality?
I'm afraid of feminism taking over what gender equality is trying to be.
Why do I deserve to be paid less than you?
In what world does 77 cents equal $1?
In what world does 68 cents equal $1?
I don't want to finish responding to this. I've refuted this wage gap so many times. I'm gonna avoid it because I don't want to even talk about it again. If you want to argue the wage gap in the comment section below, by all means, do it. I'm tired of repeating myself. I'm so repetitive with this response thing of the wage gap that it's not worth responding to me.
How is that fair?
Why are you intimidated by a woman who makes more money than you?
Oh, I'm not intimidated by a woman. I think a woman who makes more money than me is actually sexy. I think a woman making more money than me is a cool thing. I'm like, wow, she really has her brain on top of her head. She knows exactly what she's doing in life. She's successful. A successful woman to me is a very big turn on. I don't have an issue with her making more money than me, none at all. In fact, I wish more women made more money instead of sitting around in college with their gender studies degrees, talking about queer and LGBT issues constantly for their whole life.
That's awesome. More money.
Why are opinionated women seen as bitches?
When opinionated men are seen as bosses.
You see, going back to the original thing, remember that woman who said that's just a fact that everybody loves Beyonce and loves The Notebook? Maybe because you treat your opinion as fact, and I don't like it when people treat their opinion as fact. All men are rapists. That's a fact. All men believe in the patriarchy. All men are contribute to the patriarchy. That's a fact. Like, fact and opinion are two separate things. Though you can have an opinion that's fact, you can also have an opinion that is not a fact.
Why aren't you speaking up when you hear your male friends behind closed doors make jokes that are offensive to women?
So you're telling me if I'm in a group of men and they tell me a joke on, let's just say, a feminist joke, right? And that's offensive to some woman who's not even there in the room or anything around me. Why should I stop my guy friends from making a joke about women or religion or anything for that matter? Like, if nobody's around me, and even if somebody is around me who's a woman, like, I don't give a shit to begin with, but like, I'm not going to tell someone not to make a joke when there's nobody around who could potentially offend. And even if there was somebody there that it could potentially offend, I wouldn't give a shit unless it was a very, very circumstantial type of person. Like, I think the only time I would ever tell someone not to do something, not to make a type of joke, is if someone had just come out as, you know, hey, this person was sexually abused. I wouldn't then make a sexual abuse joke to that person who just came out with that stuff. Like, everything in terms of jokes are very situational. I think you can joke about anything. And I really mean that. I defend this before in my videos. Dark humor is my way out. I love self-deprecating humor. But I'm not gonna tell a group of guy friends not to say a certain joke just because it may potentially offend someone.
Why are you so afraid of recognizing your own privilege? Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just recognize it and do something about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for not showing me that I'm a bad person for my white cis privilege. So you want me to recognize my privilege and ultimately do something to fix my privilege. You know, I've never asked this, I can't even speak. I've never asked this question. How do I fix my privilege? How do I live in my daily life where I am so much more privileged than all these other women in the world? Specifically in the US, I'm not talking about out of the country. I'm a cis white male who's very privileged. How do I go about acknowledging but fixing my privilege? You know, how are those homeless men on the street, how are they gonna go about fixing the privilege that they have? It's like here in Seattle, we got tons of homeless men and we got tons of homeless women, but obviously the men who are homeless have a little bit more privilege than the women. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this has been my response to questions women have for men from BuzzFeed. I hope you enjoyed this video response. We are almost at 1,500 members on my Discord server. My Discord link is linked right here. That is the link. It's also linked down below in the description of this video. Expand that description. My community on Discord is growing insanely large. I'm in there at least once every night at some point. I'd love for you to join, become part of my Discord community, meet friends, play video games, ultimately just have a fun time. We're trying to break 1,500 members. We are at almost 1,400 members right now. That's a lot of goddamn people. So let's keep bringing those numbers up and have a great rest of your Monday.